8:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome
Right.
all of you to the Sarah Stevenson Virtual Tuesday Morning Forum. I am Mary Johnson. I'm going to be facilitating this morning along with our facilitators Laura McCletty, Jackie Walton Edwards, Nathalie McGareth, Winston Robinson, Steve Johnston, who controls our WebEx, and we have Miss Saritha Sherrill, who is our chaplain. Our virtual forum runs from 8:30 until 9:30. However, we do stay online until 9:45 for additional conversation if you can stay, but there's no pressure for you to stay. We always begin with a prayer. Miss Saritha?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please bow your heads for a minute or so. Our Heavenly Father, kneeling, we have sought you. Standing, we have walked with you. Singing, we have praised you. Awakening, we have called to you. Sleeping, we have rested in your care. Thank you, Father, for being with us everywhere, for being in our presence. God, we know not what the future brings, but we know you hold the future. Bless this day for us. Bless our nation. Bless our state. Bless our county. Bless our city. Bless our communities. Bless all of our representatives, especially continue to bless our representative, Alma Adams. Bless all of us in your son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, today our guests are the Honorable Congresswoman Alma Adams from North Carolina, of course, our very own Alma Adams. Okay, do we have any other? I know that Tyler Lee had responded, but I don't see him on. If he's on, I will name the others and see if they're here. Mr. John Sharkley. Okay. Andrew Huffman, Tyler Lee, and Nalina Joseph. Those are our candidates. But we
Tyler
do
Lee
have
got
our...
sick overnight. Tyler Lee got sick overnight.
You said, what did you say, Steve? I'm sorry.
Tyler Lee messaged in that he got ill overnight, so he will not be.
Thank you. So we do have our Honorable Congresswoman Alma Adams with us, and I'm going to use this term because she used it last night, or they used it last night. She's been carrying the baton for us for several years, and we are so happy she has done so much for HBCUs, for the Black maternal health, for the farmers, the Black farmers. I just can't name everything that she's done. It's just, she's a Wonder Woman. That's all I can say. I'm going to let her speak. And since she's the only one, I'm going to let her speak. Okay. And then after that, we will take questions. But I do want to talk about the chat for just a minute before we get started. Because, you know, we want to keep our chat open so that you can put questions in the chat. But when you start putting comments in the chat, it's not desirable. It's disparaging to put comments in the chat. So we don't want to do that, okay? What we want to do is leave the chat for questions. A question, if you have a question for the presenter, you can put that in the chat, but we're not going to be putting comments in there. And I don't want to think of any right now, but we've had some disparaging comments in there, and we don't want that. We want to keep this on the up and up. We want to be at the highest level of decency that we can be with the Tuesday Forum. It's always been that way. We want to keep it that way. So, again, following her presentation, we will take questions that are in the chat. All announcements can be sent to Steve. I know a lot of you do have announcements that you want to make. And if you're a candidate or something and you want to put your website in there, that's fine. You can do that. I just don't want these comments in there. So with that being said, we're going to let the Honorable Congresswoman Alma Adams take the baton and run with it right now.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Tuesday Morning Breakfast Forum. And I just want to give honor to God this morning for allowing me to rise one more time and to be with you. And certainly I want to thank Sister Stevenson, Ms. Stevenson, for all that she did to get this going, and the fact that you are continuing this work in her name. I just so appreciate that. You know, Mecklenburg, it's good to be here, and I always like to say nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina at an HBCU and in Mecklenburg County. So let me just begin by saying that in 2014, I was elected as your Congresswoman for the 12th District. I'm grateful for your past support and all the confidence that the citizens have placed in me. This district, the 12th District, has been my priority. I've been accessible, I've been accountable, and effective in delivering on issues important to the citizens. Just this morning, I was listening to some of the news reports, and one of the bills that I just filed last week called Lifeline, and it's a bipartisan bill. You're going to hear a lot about it. That Representative Rouser, Republican from North Carolina, and I filed, that would provide an opportunity for us to use those dollars from the funds that we put together during the pandemic to allow them to be used for affordable housing. One of the things we know, and that's one of my H's. I have 4 H's that I've been working on: housing, healthcare, hunger, higher education, public education as well. Recently, I secured $11 million in community project funding. Some of the folks who are engaged are actually in attendance today for affordable housing, for infrastructure, for public health, and for workforce development, and for violence prevention. We all know that we've got a new tower opening at the airport. I was happy to work to support the $250 million for the Douglas International Airport in the bipartisan infrastructure law, which I talked a little bit about on yesterday. That bill is going to provide tremendous amount of jobs, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to expand not only transportation, because that's included in the bipartisan bill. So many people say that there is no bipartisan discussion and that we're not talking enough, but I'm telling you, we're talking a lot in Washington. I certainly am, with my staff and with staff even across the aisle. But let me just go on to say that hunger is still a big issue in this district. I am currently serving on 3 committees. I serve on education and labor. Of course, education has been my life. On the labor side, I chair workforce protections. And so it's been very important to me to make sure, particularly during this pandemic, that our workers are safe, that our frontline workers are safe, that our teachers, that our students, that everybody is safe. And so we don't want to disregard the fact that the pandemic is still out here. There are various variants coming up. And so under my committee, we're working to make sure that we keep people safe. Now, I also sit on agriculture. And when I was introduced, we talked about, they mentioned, Mary mentioned the Black farmers. I wondered why I would really have an interest on the Agriculture Committee, but I have found that that's really where our food comes from, the farmers. But also there's an education component there in terms of our 1890s. And those are the HBCUs that are agriculture schools. We have one in North Carolina. There are 19 across the country. But one of the other things in terms of the Agriculture Committee, and I am vice chair, I am really working hard to protect SNAP. There were so many people who were hungry, still are, even students. And so the SNAP program has been expanded. I'm happy that I was able to get a bill through, and we've increased the minimum benefits by 30%. I have a bill called the Stop Campus Hunger Act. And what that bill will do.
We went and talked to some people yesterday,
students,
and
somebody
this
needs
man-
to mute, I think.
Excuse me, someone, Steve, can you put everybody please
Man,
mute? One thing I didn't say. I need you to mute.
Okay, thank you.
you.
So the Stop Campus Hunger Act was filed because we realized that with all of the situations around nutrition and lack of food, that we had students on college campuses who needed to have their food insecurity addressed. So I also know, and you know, that I am a leader in education. I'm the founder of the first Congressional Bipartisan HBCU Caucus. Our mission is to ensure that our schools, all 101 HBCUs across this country, not only survive, but that they thrive. We have $26 billion right now in deferred maintenance. And so in addition to before the last president left office, we got the Futures Act passed. It's going to provide and will provide $255 million permanent dollars for our schools, with $85 million going specifically to HBCUs. Right now, I'm working on the Ignite HBCU Excellence Act. My staff reported to me yesterday that we have 177 co-sponsors. What this bill does is invest in the infrastructure. You all know that from 1837 until 1965, HBCUs were created. So our first school goes back to 1837. Some of the buildings on these campuses are as old as the schools themselves. And so infrastructure becomes a key issue. During the pandemic, when many of the colleges were closed down, students had to go home, but they still couldn't get connected. Our schools had to put additional dollars out there to do that. And now we're getting bomb threats all across this country levied at our HBCUs. Last week, I had a bill that would declare that Congress would basically rebuke all of these bomb threats and would stand with HBCUs. I'm proud to say that I received a vote of 418 to 0, bipartisan, so the Republicans and everyone else came along. And finally, let me just say to you, I have enjoyed my work tremendously. The Lord has blessed me. He's brought me from school board to Congress. I've had the privilege of serving at the local, at the state level, and now at the federal level. In all of those opportunities that I've had, I've always and still consider myself to be a stakeholder representative. So what matters to me, what matters to Charlotte, what matters to Mecklenburg matters to me. I am your competent voice on the Hill. I certainly would appreciate your support going forward. But let me say that this district, the lines have changed. North Carolina and Mecklenburg now, we'll have two districts, the 12th district and the 14th district. And so the 12th district that I'm running in actually butts up against Cabarrus County. We have now 7,700 new voters in Cabarrus County. All of the voters in Mecklenburg County who are currently in the 12th district are citizens that I am currently serving. So I'm delighted that I know the folks. I'm going to continue to get to know people. But just let me tell you that it's been a privilege to serve, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you may have. And as I always do, I absolutely approve this message, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Okay, so we're going to open this up for questions. And do you know, I don't see any questions in the chat. Oh, I see a question. Thank you. Please put your questions in the chat. Yvette Townsend, I think, did you have a question?
Good morning. I was actually clapping, but I do want to say good morning, and especially to you, my Congresswoman, Alma Adams. And I do have a question, actually. I recognize, or I read the report that UNCC convened regarding to food deserts. And I want to do everything that I can in order to help alleviate that and start speaking about that. I know that there are 5 specific zip codes in your district that are plagued with these food deserts that don't have grocery stores within at least 5 miles or on a transportation trail. What can we do here on the local level to assist you in that effort?
Well, thank you for your question. And let me say that one of the very first things that I did when I came to Congress was to start the Adams Hunger Initiative. We've been meeting for these past 8 years quarterly. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting coming up in August. That will be our quarterly meeting. And we bring organizations together. There are about 30 that are connected with the work that we're doing to try to make sure that everybody's fed, that people have food. Yes, food deserts are a problem. You should not have to travel more than half a mile, as far as I'm concerned, to a grocery store, even less than that. We have some examples of organizations and places across the country, and even in North Carolina, where we have put grocery stores and have done community gardens and those kinds of things to help. I would appreciate it if you would connect with my office to bring your ideas to our initiative as we meet next month, so that we can figure out. I think first of all, we're going to have to figure out where we need to put them. We're going to have to get, I think, businesses and corporate folks to invest in communities. You know, one of the things that I saw, particularly as I lived in Greensboro for those years, we had grocery stores, we had libraries and all those kinds of things, but many of them did not exist in our communities. And I fought, for example, to get the first standalone library in a public housing community. We also had in that same community, and I'm trying to think of the grocery store. It was pretty popular. I think they didn't think they were making enough money. But anyway, they moved out. So we're going to have to, I think, encourage our developers, people coming into our community, should not always build where they want to build. We should always encourage them, I think, through our entities, whether it's city council, county commissioner, county commission, to make sure that they're going to truly make an investment in our community. And so, you know, whether we provide incentives for them to do that, but I think that's one of the things that we really have to do. I appreciate you raising that issue, because it is hunger. No one should go without having a decent, nutritious meal. And because we don't have the kinds of grocery stores and so forth in those neighborhoods, that means that our folks are oftentimes not eating healthy, because you're buying from the corner store. They don't have the fresh vegetables and all the other things. So please reach out to my office so we can pull you into our hunger initiative, and let's see if we can't get some things going.
Okay, thank you. Could you please talk about this Black maternal health that you've been working on so diligently?
Well, thank you for that question. I am excited about what the Black Maternal Health Caucus is doing. I started that caucus with my partner, my coworker, my congresswoman from Illinois. She was the youngest Black congresswoman. Now, I think there's some others that have come in who are a little bit younger, but Lauren Underwood. Lauren Underwood is trained as a nurse. That's her profession. She had an experience in her community with a very good friend of hers who gave birth to a healthy young baby, and went home, and a week later she passed away from well, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but certainly complications actually that occurred after giving birth to her child. So I have a story as well. My daughter, Janelle Lindsay, who's now She probably don't want me to tell her age, but she's 49. People think that she's younger than that, and well, she likes it when she goes and maybe try to go to a restaurant, and may order something to drink, and they ask the Carter, and she likes that. But she's 49. But 16 years ago, and I know that it was 16 years ago because my granddaughter, Jocelyn, my youngest granddaughter, is 16. Janelle and Ty, her husband, went to the hospital. We all went to the hospital for her to give birth to Jocelyn, and it was an emergency C-section. But prior to that, she was having a lot of pain, and the doctors really just didn't pay much attention to it. That was the reason that Lauren Underwood and I started the Black Maternal Health Caucus, so that we could address the need, the problem right now, where 3 and 4 times Black women are dying, 3 and 4 times the rate of other women, white women, and babies are too, simply because there is a lack of understanding. We have all kinds of complaints from women, and I'm talking about, it doesn't have anything to do with how much insurance you have, how great your insurance is, what your station in life is, because you can look at people like Serena Williams, who also had a difficult time. Why? So you have this implicit bias where doctors and medical folks are really not as sensitive to women of color, to Black women. And sometimes people think we can stand more pain. Now, we can do a lot. Black women, we're strong. I mean, we are. But we deserve the same opportunity to have good health care. And so these bills, we have created and filed a package of 12 bills that we call the Momnibus Act. And the Momnibus Act, in various bills, I have a bill there under my name, which is called the Kiera Johnson Act. Kiera went into the hospital with her husband and Charles, and she had a C-section. She was giving birth to her second son, Jonathan, and Jonathan was born, healthy young boy, and 12 hours later, Kiera Johnson was dead because they neglected her as she came out of recovery, and her husband and her mother and all, they noticed blood, catheter, and they just kind of, we'll get the doctor here, think it'll be okay. And so finally, she suffered for almost 11 hours. They rushed her into surgery and she passed away. My bill is named for her, the Kiera Johnson Act. There are, as I said, 11 bills. They deal with social determinants of health, and to make sure that women have what they need, that they have the resources that they need, that the doctors and the medical professionals get the training that they need. And so we are now a bipartisan group. We have not only women in our caucus, but men too. And so not just all Black men, because this kind of situation could happen to anyone. But we also know that it is a pressing problem in the Black community. 25 years later, changes have not occurred. The situation with Black women giving birth has worsened, actually. Whoever thought that would be a problem? I gave birth to my son, who is 52, I think now. I'm trying to remember. In 1969, and of course I was in labor all day, but it was a natural birth. But we're finding that more and more women are suffering, and particularly Black women and other women of color. That's the reason for the Momnibus. It's going to, one of the bills was signed by the president in November, Women Who Serve, and it deals with veterans and so forth. The entire package did go through the Build Back Better, which we still are struggling to see what's going to come out of that. But it's something that men and women are interested in. It's something that should never happen. And so I'm just thankful to God that my child survived, and my granddaughter. For those of you who I saw on Sunday, she's 16, beautiful young lady, looking at HBCUs. That's the only schools she better look at right now. But Nana's money is not going anywhere else. But anyway, so the Momnibus is slated to go all the way through, and I think it's going to make a tremendous difference. There's a lot of money in there that will help with training. There's a lot of money that will help provide doulas. You know, we've got we've got women who want to give birth in other ways in other places, and they should. You know, this should be the happiest time of your life. You should never leave home, leave the hospital without your child, and your child should never leave the hospital without their mama. Black mamas matter.
Okay, and also I just want to throw in that Johnson C. Smith has a doula program now. And
JC, SU.
and that is wonderful. It's wonderful. Okay, Congresswoman, one of the things that we've been doing here at the Tuesday Forum is we've been talking a lot about small businesses, and especially Black businesses, because we see that many small Black businesses are not really getting the support or the funding that other businesses are getting from the city and from other sources. So we're trying to help those businesses by bringing people in to talk about support. So can you share with us any programs or workshops that you have shared with small businesses?
Let me just say that just a week or two ago, we had a small business forum. We had a number of and we did this in celebration of Black History Month. For me, Black history is history every day of every month of every year. We didn't make this country great in February. We did it every month of every day of every year. And so we want to celebrate our history over and over and over again, and to get people to understand that the level of support that we have given to this country. Now, in terms of the small businesses, yes, we've had several workshops. But one of the things that I want to address right now is particularly around the pandemic. We were trying, businesses were shutting down. We were trying to make sure that there were provisions made for the businesses to keep their employees. One of the things that we found, now I mentioned two committees that I sit on, but another one that I sit on that's really exciting, and that is the financial services. And Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Auntie Max, as she's fondly regarded, chairs that committee. She has a very keen passion for housing and for Black people, period. And so when we released the funding for PPP, when we put together dollars to try to help businesses stay open, to keep their employees, we made a special effort to ensure that Black businesses, that small businesses, got their share. But what we saw happening initially, and we didn't catch it at first, all of these big folks were getting in there and getting these dollars. And here's why. They had the resources within their companies to get the paperwork and stuff done. A lot of our businesses are unbanked, underbanked, and those kinds of things. And we did not want that to stand in the way. So we went back after we got all kinds of criticism, because we really thought that they were issuing the money properly. This was the last administration, and I can tell you there was a lot of shaky stuff going on there. But at any rate, so we tried to correct that. And even today, we have a number of support resources for our small businesses, and particularly for our African American business. We try to, I am a proud member of the Congressional Black Caucus, and our focus is on Black folks. I'm just going to be honest about it. Because we know that if you're talking about our schools and education, if you're talking about our colleges and universities, if you're talking about housing, there's just discrimination everywhere. And it's unfortunate that some of the things that my mother lived through, we are seeing resurfacing today, and particularly as it relates to voting rights. I tried to stress last night how important that is, because without the right to vote, it's almost like not having good health. I mean, if you think about it, because it's the people who are elected to serve, who will make the decisions for and about us, most times without us. And so being able to, one of the things that I'm seeing, not only in North Carolina, but across this country, with all of with the problems that we're seeing with gerrymandering, is that elected officials, for some reason, seem to want to pick their constituents. Voters ought to be picking us. And so the way they are crafting a lot of these maps, and of course, in North Carolina, the General Assembly was sent back twice. Those maps were refused twice. And finally, a judge came in, a 3-panel judge we had to appoint to do it. But I want people to understand that the maps that we're running under right now, they're just temporary. Those are not, in other words, those ain't real in a sense, okay? Because the Constitution says that the General Assembly have been given the responsibility to draw the maps for the Congress. Now, the map that we're running under was not drawn by the Congress. Therefore, it is not in compliance. And that means that 2 years from now, the General Assembly is going to be given the task again. That's why it's important during this election for us to make sure that we elect people to the General Assembly, both the House and the Senate, who are responsible enough, who will be accountable to the people, and who'll do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And to make sure, because they will be given the task again every 10 years to draw maps for the Congress. And so whoever represents you in Congress will be determined by who represents you in the state House and Senate. So I just want people to get that message and not think that these are the real maps, that they're going to be here, and that things are going to change in the next couple of years.
Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about, I'm looking in the chat. Let's talk about the student loan debt. Do you support the student loan forgiveness? I know you do, but
yes, ma'am. I filed a bill.
And what can be done to encourage him to honor that pledge that he made, the president?
Well, I think if you look at the legislation, one of the things we did before we closed out last week, we passed the I want to say the omnibus, and that's the name for the bill for budget, omnibus. And so that bill does have some student debt reduction in it. What I have asked for in my bill that was co-sponsored by the Senate, Elizabeth Warren and some other folks over there, was to relieve $50,000 on all student debt for every student. Now, I know that we've had these deferments, but they don't work. And they don't work because, first of all, the students don't have the money. Many of them are not working. And so when you defer it, you're just, as we say, you're just kicking the can down the road. We need to get rid of some of this debt. When you have to pay as a student or as a student who gotten older and getting ready to retire, and you still carrying a student loan. That's absolutely ridiculous. The interest is too high. There are too many companies, et cetera, that are taking advantage of young people. I think the thing that we need to do is to continue to press the Congress, write the White House. We'll have to pass the bill, but certainly if it's something that the president and the administration puts out there and challenges us to do, we'll do it. So I'm all for it. I don't have any student debt, thank God. I did have some, and I paid it off, and it wasn't nearly. These kids are graduating with 150, $200,000 in debt. Can you imagine? I mean, listen, we love our kids, but we want to get them out of our basements and out of our homes so that they can become taxpayers themselves. That they can buy a home, that they can buy a car, and any of the other things that they need. But if they're strapped with this debt, they're not able to do that. So I'm all for it. We keep filing legislation to support it, and we're gonna. But I hope they go with the whole 50,000. But if we get 25, I think that will help a lot of people too.
I think so too. I struggled through with that Parent Plus loan. So I know
That's a terrible thing,
I know.
Mary. That went into effect right before I got there. And let me tell you what I saw as a result of the Parent Plus. Well, first of all, we had so many students who couldn't even come back to school because they put they had to do the credit search and so forth on the parents, which I don't think they should be doing. But worse than that, because they couldn't come back, we lost. The enrollment dropped. At that time I was I had just left Bennett, but a lot of our schools, especially our HBCUs and especially our private schools that are tuition driven, our private schools like Johnson C. Smith, tuition driven. In other words, you make your budget based on the income the money that your students can pay. And we all know that a lot of our students, first generation, we don't have a lot of money to even pay. So we are counting on student loans. But I just thought the Parent Plus thing was a plus down. And it really put our schools, our parents, and our young people at tremendous risk. And I hope we can do something about it to just get it was just not a good. If I had been there, I wouldn't have voted for it.
Okay. Someone wants me to repeat my question. I think it's about small businesses. She says, what are they doing for small businesses now?
Well, we have a number of programs that small businesses can take advantage of. We've put dollars into not only the CARES, but also into the rescue plan. A lot of those dollars are still there, and that's what they were talking about on the news today in terms of the monies that are still sitting there. There's about $170 million that's unused that we're going to use, or at least the proposal that we have on the table. And I think it'll pass because I've got a lot of Republican support, but I also have a lot of support from our builders and our developers. There's money available for our small businesses and even for minority businesses and for women-owned businesses. So I would ask that person to reach out to my office here in Charlotte, and we'll get some particulars for them and direct them to the right individuals. Small business, if you haven't reached out to the SBA, but there are several other resources, but I think there are some things that we can look at specifically in my office that will help.
Okay, can you share with us the opportunities for our young folk to receive scholarships through the Black Caucus at the federal level?
Well, listen, the Black Caucus First of all, we have 4 entities. We have the Black Caucus. The Black Caucus consists of all of the Black members who are in Congress, if they want to join. Okay, and so that's the CBC. We have the CBCF, which is the CBC Foundation. We are the ones who the CBC Foundation is not run totally by members of Congress. That's a conflict, but we do have some members of Congress on the board. So the CBC Foundation is the body that provides grants and funding, scholarships for students. Then we have the CBCI, the CBC Institute. We put on forums and to engage people across the country. And then we have the CBC PAC, and the CBC PAC actually meets with potential candidates, provide funding, and so forth. But I also want you to know that every member of the CBC gets an appropriation for their district through the foundation to provide scholarships. And I was able to do that one last year since I've been in the Congress, and I'll be continuing to do that. But I would recommend that you first of all go to our website. The information is there for the students to fill out applications. But also, this is not a federal program, but I would also invite you to and let you know about the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. I chaired that board when I was a member of the State House for 7 years. And our focus is on HBCUs and providing funding for students who attend. So HBCUs has not been new for me. I've been doing this for a long time. Why? Because an HBCU in Greensboro, North Carolina, took this poor Black girl who walked those ghetto streets of Newark, New Jersey, and now I'm able to walk the halls of Congress. So I owe all that I can do to HBCUs, because I know what they did for me, what they're going to do for my grandson, what they're doing for all of these kids who go to those schools. So check out the NCLBCF, that's the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Foundation, because they provide scholarships. As a matter of fact, they're getting ready for, I think they probably are taking applications now, and so is the CBCF. And then of course you'll find an application on the CBCF that if you live in in my district, then you can apply, and we will review those, and we give out all the money that they give me. I give it away to students because they need it.
Okay, what changes are you seeing in the balance of power among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches? And what do you expect in the future?
Well, I expect if we get out and vote, and as I like to say, we turn the mother out, we will be able to sustain, I think, good people. But because we're losing good people, and my count right now is about 32 members of my house, the House of Representatives, who will be retiring because they feel it's time to go, retiring because of gerrymandering may have put them in a situation where they are being retired. But I think that everything is going to hinge on getting this vote out and making sure that we elect people. Somebody's going to make a decision for and about us, most times without us. And so our responsibility, I think, is to either do what I have done and try to work from the inside out, or be able to control those people like me who make those decisions on your behalf. And so that means you've got to get out and vote. Now, so some people are saying that the balance of power will change in the House. I'm not sure that that's true now that we've looked at some new data, now that some of the redistricting has been modified to some degree, and that's what happened in North Carolina. So I think it's going to really, what happens will really ultimately depend on on the citizenry. How willing are we to put the time to, first of all, educate people about some of the things that I've said? That, for example, we have you have new members of Congress, or you will in 2023. I'm running for 2023. Everybody who is a candidate is running for 2023. So 2022 stays the way it is in terms of the districts, but they're going to change. And for us in Charlotte, we will have 2 representatives. Now, I really think I believe that we're gonna end up with 2 Democrats, but again, we have to think about what's going to happen 2 years from now, and the changes. But I think in every case, we need people, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're black, white, blue, or green. We need people who are sensitive to the issues that the community is facing. I didn't grow up with health insurance. I didn't grow up with 1,400 hats. I only had 5, which is probably why I got too many now. I was 14 years old before I had clothes of my own.
Okay, we can't hear you.
So I didn't answer the question. You did the question?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay, but
Okay,
somehow my thing went to mute.
Okay,
I was, okay, you have another question?
I do. We want to talk about this housing market and the fact that we have these companies that are coming in and buying up lots and lots of single family homes across Charlotte and everywhere. And they're just shutting out first time home buyers because they can't afford to buy a house, even though they are professionals and they have jobs. But the houses, even in Charlotte, have skyrocketed because of that. Can you address that or say what's happening in Congress?
Well, I can tell you that, and I mentioned before that Congresswoman Maxine Waters is probably one of the most avid opponents of who is really concerned about affordable housing, to the extent that we put $150 billion that would go to address affordable housing in the Build Back Better. Now, again, I'm not going to discard Build Back. I think we're going to have something, and it may not be called that. Probably shouldn't be called that, since there was so much opposition from Manchin and Sinema and some of the Republicans. But it is a concern. Now, it's such a great concern of mine. Housing is one of my 4 H's. I was listening to a news report before I got on this call, and they were talking about my Lifeline bill. And what that Lifeline is called, Lifeline, and basically what it does, I think it provides a lifeline for people that we're talking about who are first-time home buyers. What it will do, it will allow the funding that's in the American Rescue Plan that has not.
Okay, we lost you again. Okay, we still can't hear you. And it doesn't look like you're on mute.
Oh, geez.
There, you're on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we got you now.
I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Somebody spooking my my box. But let me just say, look up the Lifeline bill is going to provide additional dollars to help our developers who are developing housing, particularly affordable housing, to make those houses affordable so that they don't pass on, because now with COVID and with the prices rising in terms of materials, that they could pass those along. This bill will, and this is a bipartisan bill, and we're trying to make it bicameral. And that I say that because when I can get the folks on the other side of the aisle to come across the aisle and to work with me, we're going to be able to get this bill passed. And the other thing is, let me tell you who all the advocates out there are. They are the builders, the realtors, because they want to be able to continue to build. But it is a problem in Charlotte, not just purchasing a home. I remember when I purchased my first home, and I purchased it from a female who was a minority in the whole business of home building. But we've got a number of projects going in the Congress right now, really focused on trying to get more affordable housing. But this is one of the things that I can tell you that I'm personally doing, along with my Republican colleague from, I guess he's from the Cabarrus County area. That's Representative Rouser. And so we're building support. We're trying to get Senator Tillis's support. So you might want to reach out. He's the senator for all of us. Give him a call, send him an email, tell him to support Lifeline. And that money will be freed up to use to try to make housing more affordable.
Okay, two more things, and we are running out of time, but two more things. One is, this is something I learned last night that many people are confused about, and that is the those vaccines that are out for COVID, that they are not federally mandated, but they can be mandated by your employer, okay? And that's two different things. It's not mandated by the federal government, but mandated by your employer. If your employer says you have to have it, then that supersedes everything. Okay, and I want you to talk about the January 6th insurrection and just give us an update on how that's going.
Well, we're putting some folks in jail. That's one thing which needs to happen. That never should have happened. It certainly was an assault on our democracy. We have the January 6th Commission that's headed up by Representative Benny Thompson of Mississippi. I think Benny's from Mississippi. And they've gotten to the bottom of things. Now, the Justice Department will have to step up once they send forth their report and their recommendations. But I was there on January 6th with three of my staffers, and I can tell you that it was a very trying, difficult experience. Fortunately, I did not get into the chamber. I was scheduled to go into the chamber. My time slot was 1:15. I got over to the building at 1:05 with my staffers. I saw all these people. I was really concerned. I mean, we have protests all the time, but there were many, many people. And then they wouldn't let me in the door. They said, well, you'll have to go into the under the tunnel if you want to go in. We did not know, but all of you did if you were watching TV. We did not know exactly what was going on inside if you didn't get in there. So I decided that rather than take my 15 minutes that Nancy Pelosi had granted me to go into the chamber, I asked my staffer I said, well, let's go back to the building. And if I change my mind by the time we cross over the street, I'll go in the tunnel. But so when I got over going across the street in the car, I said, I'm not feeling good about this. I saw all those people, and by then they told me that they had stormed the Capitol. So I went into my office, and all the alarms went off, and I was getting all kind of texts from my family and other people, and I had my TV on in the office. So we just boarded everything up. I told my staff turn everything down and lock the doors, and so we did all of that. And then a little while later, the security came by and they took me to another site where all of the members, well, a number of the members were there. And this was during high COVID time. And one of the things that was stressful about that, we were in there, Democrats and Republicans in that room. And many of them refused to wear masks. And I was very, very upset about that, and even though we were offering it to them. But at any rate, as it turned out, we went back in that day. We were there. The Vice President Pence was there to certify the election. That's our job. That's our responsibility based on the Constitution. And so we went back in. I called my daughter and I was talking to her and I said, well, once the speaker talked to us, we're going to go back in and we're going to vote. And she says, you're going to go back in? And I said, we've got to do our job. And that's what we did, stepping over all the glass and all of the debris. It was a horrible, horrible day. And it continues to be etched in the minds of so many of our members. Yeah.
Okay. I did have a few more questions that came into the chat, so I'm going to try to quickly ask you that. One is, this is a light question. Which House colleague has the best sense of humor?
Which House colleague?
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. You probably won't believe it, but I think Maxine Waters is yeah, she keeps me laughing all the time.
I know. Auntie
Yeah.
Maxine.
Auntie Maxine, yeah.
Okay, I have another one here. There's a new medical school coming to Charlotte in collaboration with Atrium and Wake Forest University. How can elected officials ensure that the undergrad HBCU students and high schoolers in CMS have programs and curriculum that will align and strengthen their opportunities to secure higher education and employment in the medical field? That's kind of long.
Well, but thank you for that question, and we certainly need to do that. We know that our schools have been big producers of STEM, and our graduates have done extraordinarily well. We have some great schools. You got Meharry, you got schools all across this country, and I'm talking about HBCUs. But we have, through the bipartisan HBCU caucus and my office, the HBCU Partnership Challenge, where we partner with business, with corporate folks, and so forth. And so I think that we just need to, and we are already making sure that these connections and so forth are being made. And thank you for raising that, because what we'll do, we'll reach out to them. I think my office has probably already done it, but we'll reach out to them and make sure. So what we do, we monitor this stuff. And I would just say to you, in closing, if you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. Don't assume that Alma Adams already knows about it. Now, I'm pretty smart, but I don't know about everything. And I don't, and you are closer to the ground, especially while you're here. And if something comes up, and please let us know. But my office will be monitoring that. Our purpose for this caucus is to make sure that our schools are fully engaged, and that these businesses and corporations and entities, whether they be Atrium or any other health entity, hospital, etc., are being responsive and responsible and accountable, and to make sure that the diversity. Everybody's talking about D&I. We can't just talk about it. We have to be about it. And so that's one of the things that I can guarantee you that the caucus, my bipartisan caucus, is working on, that my office is working on. We have now 80 partners in the Partnership Challenge, and they're being added each and every day, including airlines. We've got 2 airlines that have become a part of the Partnership Challenge. And it's not just for show, it's for do. But folks, I've got to run.
We want to thank you so much. This has just been outstanding. And we want to just give you a shout out. Thank you so much for all you do. We want you to keep carrying that baton on to the finish line.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm gonna need your help, and I appreciate that. And you know, a community can only grow great when old
Yes.
men and old women plant trees under which we know we will never sit. I'm going to keep planting the trees. I need you to help me do that. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so
God bless.
much. We
Have a great
appreciate you.
day.
Thank you. Okay, for everyone else, we're still on and we will be on until 9:45. Jennifer Delhara is on. I'm going to let her speak to this collaboration with the medical school and CMS. I'm going to let her say something about that. And then after that, we're going to have the elected officials and the candidates. So Jennifer, you want to speak to
Thank
that?
you, Ms. Johnson, for letting me share about that. We did meet with the Innovation District and Atrium folks to talk about programming. They're very interested in engaging with us. And so we have connected, when I say we, I mean 3 of our board members went to meet with them. We're connecting them with staff to think through how that programming, what it would look like. I will tell you also, because I think this is important, we also caution them on the challenges that we're facing right now with just our teacher shortage that we have and the teacher pipeline drying up, and sort of joked with them, you know, don't steal away all of our biology teachers and pay them more through a special program that you could develop, you know, to teach outside of the school system. And I say that because I really want to encourage us all. You know, we talked about this a few weeks ago when we were talking about how difficult it is to find electricians that can make $80,000, $100,000 being an electrician, and asking them to come to CMS and teach our students. And all we can do is offer them 45. And it's the same as I'm speaking with business partners across the community. Last Friday, I was speaking with a group that want more advanced manufacturing, career and technical programming, and they're like, we need more workers. And it's very hard also for us to find the teachers to teach those programs in our community. So I say that, know that we are collaborating, but we're also asking the business community to talk to the leadership in Raleigh, to let them know the challenges we have with the stagnant teacher pay and all around career pipeline building. Remember when we used to have teacher fellows programs and things like that, where we would, you know, create a teacher pipeline? Leandro funding will help us get there. So I'm just asking for the community support and understanding that we also need our state legislature to help us out. And we also are submitting, just so everyone knows, to the county commission in our budget this year a substantial, at least 10% pay increase on the county supplement. So, you know, hopefully be in support of that, because we need to be able to attract and retain quality educators. But just wanted to share about that. Know that we are talking. If you have ideas or suggestions you'd like for me to convey to that group, we will. We're still a few years out, but the planning is starting now. Thank you so much.